Let's talk about self-doubt. In today's video, I'm going to talk you through 7 methods for the overthinker, which you may or may not be. If you have a tendency of trying to find reasons in your mind, discussing back and forth with yourself, trying to make yourself do that thing that you're too shy to do, or not sure how you can do it, whether you can do it, and getting stuck on the threshold to doing that next step, this video is for you. So let's look at 7 methods. They range from some more instant methods that you can use in the moment, and they only take you a couple of seconds, especially with practice, to a bit more deeper work with yourself, either with someone like a coach or mentor, or with a good friend, or that you do totally on your own, like taking a bit of extra time. So I'm going to start off with the more quick and instant ones, and be aware that some of these will only cover like the stuff that is already close to the surface. So if we're digging deeper into the doubts that are not just in your mind, and once you realize them and kind of unveil them, you can actually reframe them and see that that's totally irritating or no longer valid and no longer relevant. Once you face them, you can easily overcome them or actively choose to think and go in a different direction. That is some of the more conscious doubts. And then we're digging deeper to the ones that are related to a longer history of pain, limiting beliefs, emotional wounds, and they cannot necessarily be taken away with a simple instant method. Some of these you may have already worked on, and based on your deeper work and longer work from before, you can now apply those more instantaneous methods to when they still come up every now and then in a new situation, to actually put a stop to them. But beware that our doubts, like so much in life, comes in different layers, and our beliefs also come in different layers. So before I get too much into the theory of this, let's dive in. Method number 1, just say stop. Don't call me crazy just yet. Hear me out. When you have a doubtful sentence in your mind, like, ooh, can I really do that? I don't think I'm able to do that. Should I not? Nah. You feel in your body like you want to do it. You may have prepared yourself to actually do it, whether it is raising your hand in a meeting and sharing your opinion, even though you know the vice president of XYZ is totally against it because they have already voiced their opinion, or making a critical decision. Doesn't matter. The moment you hear that voice or you feel that doubtful message, when the moment you realize that you're thinking this, just say stop in your mind. Depending on your scenario, you may also say this out loud, like when you're just doing the laundry or doing the cooking, and you face yourself noticing that you have that old thought that you want to get rid of. Just say stop, and you may actually say stop. I'm no longer thinking like that, and then actively choose a different thought. This is one of the methods that won't work like with deep-seated emotional wounds is in the beginning. But as I said in the beginning, some of the deeper wounds, they take more healing and more methods until we're whole again. And during that time of healing, that old limiting belief may show up on the surface in a doubtful sentence. And when you realize that it shows up, just say stop, I'm no longer thinking like that, and change your inner voice and give yourself a different text. You have to actively choose to think something else, because that's the famous example of don't think of a blue elephant. So what are you thinking of now? Our brains don't work with the word no. They don't understand the negation. So stop, I don't think like that anymore. I don't think like that anymore. You have to actively think of something else and therefore rephrase that sentence in your mind and encourage yourself. Method number 2, get out of your mind. When we're in this bang discussion, oh, I should really do that, but I'm not quite sure. Can I really do that? Should I not? Not quite sure. And you catch yourself doing that. And that is the critical bit. You need that you need to be aware of that moment when you're actually in this mind game with yourself. Then actively get out of your mind and into your body. You can do that in a number of ways, like dancing, exercising, going for a walk, putting yourself out in nature, actively looking at other stuff. And I'm not talking about screen time. I'm talking about like real life experience. Get into your physical body and feel and be aware of your physical body. You can also do a grounding exercise. I've put some of these exercises into a mini workbook that goes along with this video. You can find it down below, linked in the description text. And there's also a grounding exercise in there. The benefit of getting out of our mind is that we're ending this spiral of yes, no, pro and con, because when we have an emotional problem, we cannot solve that in our minds. An emotional problem, and that is this threshold of I want to do something, I'd love to do something, I'm actually convinced that I'm going to do something, but I'm holding myself back out of fear. And then our self-doubt becomes this voice that actually tells us, you're not good enough. Maybe someone else is already doing that. Should I really do that? I've never done that before. Nah, I don't know. And then going back and forth. And unless you find a way of stopping this mind barrage that's going on here and putting it on the actual level where the real root cause is sitting, and that is very likely not in your mind, then you're not going to solve your issue and not going to move forward. So let's take yourself out of your mind and into your physical body, and we best feel our physical body when we move it. So hop around dancing and go for a workout, go for a walk, actively get grounded in your physical body, and then take a different perspective. Method number 3, prove them wrong. And I don't mean the others, prove anybody else wrong, but prove your negative thoughts wrong. And again, this exercise will make transparent some of your doubts. You may not resolve each and every one of that by means of looking at them with this exercise. But what it will do is it will help you eliminate and reframe those that are simply just mind chatter. And it will also make transparent which deeper rooted ones are still prevalent in you. So the exercise, prove them wrong. You take either a notebook or the page from the workbook with the exercise. If you're using a notebook, you break it down into a couple of columns. And first one is the number of your doubt, because I'm going to ask you to write a list. Because like with brainstorming, sometimes it's number 11, number 21, number 51 that actually brings out that real issue that's underneath it all, the one that we haven't looked at yet. So I'm not going to force you to do 50 doubts, but trust me, you want to have a column and a bit of space to actually go more than the obvious 3 or 5. So first of all, write down all your sentences that you have in your head, and then some more. Number them as you go. Next, check in with them like one by one. What's their mode of appearance? Do you have an image? Do you see a scene? Do you have a funny feeling, a cramped feeling maybe in your stomach, or does your throat get tight? Are you shrinking? Like, is it a physical expression, or do you hear a voice, or do you speak yourself? Like, what is the mode in which this doubt appears? Write it down, because different doubts have different appearances. Then look at the origin or the source of that doubt. If you hear a voice, whose voice is that? Very likely it's not your own. Could be a teacher, a parent, someone you met at school, former friends, ex-boyfriends, girlfriends, former partners, former bosses, whatever, team members. If you see a scene, like, place that scene in time and space if you can. Once you've gone through all of your list of doubts and have added those extra bits and pieces, then take a break, take a coffee or tea, and then come back to your list. And now go through them one by one and have a look at like what you wrote down. If you have identified like this doubt that says you cannot do it like that, and you've identified that it is a voice coming from a teacher that you had in 7th grade, what's today's perspective on that? Like, did it even refer to you as a whole person? Like, they obviously made a large impact on you with saying you cannot do it like that, implying like your idea is wrong, your idea is laughable, ridiculous, nobody would ever do it like that. Whatever hurts so much about this, you cannot do it like that, coming from your 7th grade math teacher, would you still take his advice today? Does it even apply to you? Did it apply to you as a whole person at the time? Or did it actually apply to some math issue, but the way it was delivered made it such a painful experience that you felt forever like the way I approach things is, I don't know, stupid, ridiculous, or whatever was implied in that. I don't want to go into the negative territory here. You will know with your example of you cannot do it like that, what triggered that doubt. And putting today's perspective on this old doubt delivered in the teacher's voice, if it all goes back to that scene, how do you see that person today? Is it still relevant what they said? Is it such a big deal? Did it apply to you as a whole person? Do you still accept it? Or is that a person who you wouldn't even take any advice? Definitely not on your life decisions, certainly not on the current decision that you're facing. And then you can actually just say, okay, understood, this is where this doubt comes from, and it's gone, right? Some other sentences, that's the beauty of writing full-length sentences, they sound absolutely absurd. It's like, what? Where did that come from? I'm afraid to do X. I'm afraid that people will Y. And when you see it spelled out, it's like, what? Where did you come from? And then just reading them again is like, okay, I wasn't even aware I had such a silly thought. Okay, fair enough. Now that I see it out in the open, it's no longer meshed in this negative cloud of emotional feeling of negativity and doubt. It's no longer scary. It doesn't hinder me anymore. It's just like, what? Where did that come from? Okay, discard it. Take it as, okay, interesting information. Wasn't even aware that I was thinking like that. but don't spend much time on it. Look at the ones, go through those that are still relevant after you go through this exercise, and then dive deeper. Method number 4, share your 3 biggest successes. I have impactful memories of doing this workshop and this exercise in a workshop with women who were about to return to work after a family break. Some of them have been out of the work environment for several years. I think the longest one was for 8 years. And they were just about to return to their workplace. And asking these women to write down their 3 biggest successes earned me blank stares. Like, what do you mean? I don't have successes. Which again triggers me into saying, I bet you do. So first of all, find your 3 biggest successes and don't ignore your successes in your personal life. If you've overcome a difficult situation with an ex-partner, if you have raised children, if you have managed to move to a different country and create a new life for yourself, that is a huge success. If you have managed to finish college, university, have a degree in anything, or finish a a professional certification or an apprenticeship, if you are a professional in any type of respect, that is a success story. It may not be one of your 3 biggest in your life because you may be much more proud of something else. You decide, but I do challenge you. You do have 3 biggest successes in your life, whatever they may be. First of all, find them, write them down. Like, what is your biggest success? Find 3 of them, and then go share them with someone. I'm not talking about creating some crazy online campaign about it. You don't have to share it publicly. You don't have to share it in your workspace. You can go talk to your best friend. If you feel that you don't want to talk to anyone about it, share it with your journal. But find your 3 biggest successes and at least write about them. Better, talk about them. Tell your best friend that you're doing this crazy exercise. The woman on YouTube, the leadership coach with the crazy ideas, she made you do it. And invite your friend to also share his or her 3 biggest successes and watch what happens. Because very often what we don't see when we're in this doubtful energy, like just going back and forth in our mind, not sure, should I, how can I, is this really meant for me? Am I good enough? All those lovely doubts that we have. We totally forget what wonderful people we actually are. The fantastic things that we've already accomplished in our lives. And even if we're totally forgetting about them, once we start sharing them with someone we trust, they will actually say, wow, that's so cool. And we never even remembered that in that instant where our mind was going crazy and haywire with us. So go put your 3 biggest successes on paper and talk to someone about them. Method number 5, write a new story. It's kind of an expansion on the 3 successes method, but this time tell your story, maybe your professional story or the story of your life, from the perspective of someone who is confident. You can take someone you admire, an online person that you follow, a leader in your company that you aim to be like, or that salesy marketing person who you half admire and half think, oh my goodness, I could never brag like that. You know the person, someone who's really good at telling a story and making the most of it. You've seen them giving presentations. You've seen them perform. They're fantastic at that. Even though you would never do it like that, because you often feel like they're just a balloon of hot air. But they can make out of this much, they can make such a fantastic story and make it so great. And it always looks wow. Take them, take their voice and look at your CV, or look at your professional life, or look at your most recent project, the one that you think you didn't do much with, or your personal life, and write your story in their voice. Depending on whether you love writing, obviously then journal about it, or if you're more an auditory person, if you love dialogue, then go and tell yourself that story. You can do that on a long drive. You can do that as you walk in nature. When you walk the dog or go for a run, just mumble it under your breath or do a voice recording, whatever style you like, or do a mini video about it to yourself. But tell your story from the perspective of someone who would be proud of it, who is confident, and who would make the most of it. These methods so far, they are all aimed at reframing your mind chatter and bringing you back into that stance of, hey, I'm actually quite good. I've actually accomplished a couple of things in my life. There are some things that I'm really proud of, and I can actually be proud of them. When you're back in your power because you feel that sense of accomplishment, when you feel that you're rightfully proud of some of the things that you've actually done in your life, that is a new perspective and a new moment to actually look at the doubt that you had. Because that doubt doesn't hold power over you in that when you're back in your own big energy. So you have a different perspective on this mind chatter. And once you're there, we can take it even deeper. Method number 6, have a conversation with your doubt. What? If you give your doubt a kind of personality, like an avatar, it becomes an external thing to you. Right now, it is playing its tricks on your mind. And if you take it out of your mind and into some kind of either imagined or physical representation, you can actually have a conversation with that entity who is providing you with all those doubtful voices, images, and feelings. This is based on the idea that your doubt is based in yourself, as in it's just one part of you. If you're familiar with systemic constellation or systemic therapy or systemic coaching at all, then you're familiar with the general concept that we have different parts and we can actually take out a single part of them, a single part, and have a conversation with them or look at that individual part of us and be in dialogue with that part. Because based on the philosophy of systemic coaching and therapy is that each of our parts, even the ones that we don't want to look at, even the negative parts, they all want something positive for us. So let's have a conversation with that doubt. And you can either imagine a little figure rising here on your hand and have a conversation with them. You can take something like a physical representation, like pick up a pebble. I just picked up one of the crystals on my desk and consider this as a representation of your doubt and have that conversation. Or you can use different chairs or different seats in your room where you sit in one seat and you place a cushion or that physical representation, and you have that actual conversation with your doubt. The seating thing has the benefit of you being able to sit in the doubtful situation, in the doubtful position, and actually dive into it, and then get out of the doubtful position and get back into a different one. If you're not familiar with systemic coaching at all, and if this doesn't sound like you could do it on your own, don't worry. Some of you I know have already done a lot of coaching, are trained in all kinds of facilitation techniques. You go and have a ball with this. If you feel like this sounds like a very interesting thing and you think you might benefit from it, get yourself a coach. Look for transformational coach, systemic coach, or just simply book yourself into a free call and I can guide you through the exercise. The purpose of the exercise, on the one hand, is to get that doubt out of your system and as an external entity so that you can actually look at it, similar to what we did with the other methods. Once it's outside of you, you can have this imagined or real conversation, depending on how your imagination works. I tend to have like 3D movie scenes and 3D figures when I start this type of exercise, either for myself or with my clients. So I benefit from having this magical imagination, but it may be different for you. You may just have the pebble or a crystal and then see how that has hurt you, how the words appear, or just see how you feel about having this doubt. Maybe you want it back. It has happened because this may be such a large part of you that you don't want to let go of the doubt. That's an interesting information, right? Who are you without that doubt? Ooh, what's happening then? We're not taking that doubt away from you. You still hold it in your hand. But you may actually gather some interesting information. You may actually see that doubt with different eyes. And the idea is that this doubtful entity, this crystal in my case, this pebble, may actually represent something that you weren't aware of. And that's when we start digging deeper and getting to our own truth. Very likely, if you've gone this far and if you've actually watched this video so far, then you're interested in digging a bit deeper than just this mind chatter that you can stop with saying, hey, I'm not thinking like that anymore. Ready for method number 7? Gets deeper. That is like sitting in that doubtful seat and really feeling it, going into it. That is called shadow work. If you've never done it, I don't advise you to do it unaccompanied. If you're familiar with coaching techniques or therapeutic techniques or are very spiritual and do a lot of shadow work already, go ahead. If you've never experienced really going into a dark emotion inside yourself, I advise you to do it with a guide, someone who can hold space, someone who can walk you through the process and help you move through it to the other side, because that is the magic of doing shadow work. Shadow is kind of the unacknowledged, the unconscious part of our being. Goes back to C.G. Jung, the psychotherapist and psychologist. The principle of shadow work is, and you can test that for yourself, the unacknowledged part of ourselves, the bit that we don't want to look at, the part of us that we don't want to own, the parts of us, the elements of us that we don't like, that's what we call our shadow. it's actually more than just the parts that we don't like. It's also the parts that we don't acknowledge. That's why they're unconscious. We're not looking at them and we're not owning them, which means that there's a host of power stored in our unconscious and in our subconscious. That is why Jung advised to make the unconscious conscious, to make us fully aware of who we really are and owning everything that we are so that we can make conscious choices. And that is a great part of my coaching philosophy. The magic of going really inside that doubtful experience. And I'm not talking about the real doing those steps that you're afraid of, but those inner doubts, to actually let them happen, to really dive into them. The magic of that is that you're doing something that you've tried to avoid with all your energy. It's like really sitting in the fear. In your case, in our case, when we're talking about self-doubt, sitting in that doubt and noticing what it does. What happens when you expose yourself to the thing that you're afraid of? If you can hold it, if you can hold out in that space, you will see how, you will notice how after a while it starts disintegrating. It just, you get so much information about your thoughts, your feelings, what happens in your body when you're sitting in that doubtful moment, in that doubtful space. And once you fully acknowledge the fears, the doubts, the possibilities, what you're actually shying away from, what it truly is, what's underneath it, and how it feels, when you give it the space that it actually wants, that's when it starts to disintegrate. Because again, our inner parts, including our doubts, they want to be acknowledged. It's like emotions. Emotions just want to be felt. And the more we try to avoid feeling those emotions, the more persistently they come back and hit us and say, come on, feel me, feel me, feel me. And the same goes with doubts. They want to be acknowledged. And there's probably some protective element in there. There's probably also a ton of external judgment and a lot of inner judgment that you hadn't realized you have taken over from previous experiences with external judgment that you've internalized. We're taking it really deep now in today's session. I hope what I explain makes some sense to you, because on the one hand, I believe that it's really important that I share those different methods that we can use in order to help with self-doubt. On the other hand, our self-doubt, that is kind of the surface level, the mind chatter back and forth, has so many layers underneath that I hesitate to just simply give you like, hey, here's the 5-7 methods and go ahead, have a ball. In 3 minutes, you're set and you're done and you no longer doubt yourself. I think we both know that that is not the case, especially with some of the doubts that stem from traumatic experiences, continued negative experiences, whether you've been bullied or manipulated or whatever negative experience you've had. It leaves a mark. And unless you've gone deep to actually integrate and heal that negative experience in order to become whole again, unless you've gone through that sometimes excruciating journey of healing and inner growth and transforming yourself into becoming whole again. Unless you've gone there, you won't be able to do much with those surface level ones. I'm talking to the people here who actually want to really fully integrate everything that they have in their reservoir. If you actually want to be fully in your power, be fully you and live your potential, like do everything that you ever dreamed of and really work with yourself, then you and we're becoming friends, because that is what I'm here for. That is what I can help you with. And this is not to say that you cannot go out and be a great leader or a great business person without having dived deep, super deep. You can, but you will be triggered along your way, and leadership can actually help you get conscious of your triggers every day, because it has a habit of bringing us in touch with people. Leadership is a relationship game. So enough said. I'm gonna wrap this up. See you next time. Bye.